Watch Dr. Drew's new show at 9 on HLN. Weeknights on HLN.
More twists and turns tonight in the trial of polygamist Warren Jeffs. Jeffs is accused of marrying and sexually assaulting 2 underage girls, one 12 and the other 15. Jeffs wants presiding judge Barbara Walter removed from his case, says God warned him that her life is in danger. She better get off the bench. Back with us, former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh. Joining us, former FLDS member Flora Jessups, author of Church of Lies, and HLN in-session host Christy Paul. Now, the motion from Jeffs read, quote, I am to now rescue you from this case. Now sign order to recuse thyself and allow this proceeding to stop. In an attached affidavit, Jeffs claims God has numbered the judge's days. Quote, let also Barbara Walters, that's not exactly her name, be of a humbling to know I have sent a crippling disease upon her, which shall take her life soon. A pox, I tell you. Christy, what is this tactic?
Well, that's a good question. I think that I just talked to Derek Walpole, who is still advising Warren Jeffs, by the way. And first and foremost, we need to let you know that a judge in Midland had to look at this recusal motion. He denied it, so court has gone back into session and has been in session all day. But at the end of the day, Derek Walpole told me, you know what? Warren Jeffs believes that he is the prophet. What we are seeing from this man, he says, is not an act. And he seems to get more agitated than any time else when the prosecution starts to submit evidence in the case, evidence including marriage records, birth records, photos of his home. And he gets very agitated, saying this is sacred ground, you are trampling on it, and basically at one point saying you will release more harm upon yourselves than you can imagine if you do not cease these proceedings.
Mark, I want to go to you. So what? What if he says, I'm Napoleon, and you can't have no right to talk about my generals that way? I mean, why is this different?
Well, I agree with you. I mean, ultimately, the question is whether he's competent to stand trial, and the answer is obviously yes. You just have to know right from wrong, understand that the person up there in the black polyester robe is the person who's the judge. He meets that threshold, and then the judge asked enough questions of him prior to allowing him to represent himself to feel comfortable legally that he can represent himself. The gall and the chutzpah to say that, you know, hey, Judge, I spoke with my higher power, the person I call God, and my higher power is telling me that you need to get off this case. And, oh, wait, and by the way, he thinks that that black robe is very unflattering, doesn't do anything for your smoking hot body. I mean, at some point, how far does he go?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. I mean, I just tuned in and he told me that Jeff's guy, not the prophet, turns out. And Judge Walter apparently not the only one to have been threatened by Jeffs. In court on Friday, Jeffs also threatened the Tom Green County prosecutors and anyone else who might bring charges against him, saying, quote, I will send a scourge upon the counties of prosecutorial zeal to make humbled by sickness and death. Mark, help me understand why the court allows this nonsense to go on, why the judge doesn't somehow, you know, silence some of this.
Well, let me explain to you. They have to give him some leeway. This is, by the way, typically a circuit judge's nightmare to have someone representing themselves because they're all over the place, and the judges are worried about reversal. They have to give them enough latitude to make sure that they have their day in court, that they don't, you know, step on their First Amendment right of freedom of speech. But at some point, as long as he's not disturbing the proceedings in front of the jury, the judge can take this while they're outside, you know, having a smoke or taking a break. The judge can give him the latitude to spew this garbage and then ultimately determine, did he rape these children?
All right, Flora, I'm going to go out to you. You were one time within this community. What do they hear when they hear this stuff being spewed by the so-called prophet? They're completely on board with this, aren't they?
You know, Warren has ordered the followers to stay away from the trial, and in fact, some of his followers are here at the trial, but they're staying in the hallways. There is one enforcer that remains in the courtroom, but for the most part, the rest of them sit in the hallway. So they aren't hearing what Warren Jeffs is saying.
And Flora, of course, I was meaning sort of figuratively. What would they hear if they were to hear this kind of stuff? The rest of us hear kind of like rambling, delusional nonsense. They hear the truth. But let me ask you this. You were in the courtroom today, is that correct? And if so, did you make eye contact with Jeffs? What was that like? What happened there?
Yes, I did. And Warren's brother Lyle Jeffs is here as well. And Lyle is the stand-in, I guess you could call the stand-in prophet, or Warren Jeffs' enforcer while Warren's been in jail. And several of the other men, and I've gone up and shook their hands. They are my family, and said hi to them, and they don't react very well to that, as you can imagine. But you know, I don't run from them. I have nothing to hide. One of the interesting things, though, that you need to take note of in that document that Warren filed today was that he called not only death by disease down upon anyone associated with this case, but death by accident as well.